Hello and welcome to the Everyday Hair Colorist, podcast number 6. Today's guest is Amy McManus. She's better known as Camouflage and Balayage, a Instagram sensation and fascinating story. Hi, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really well, and I'm really pleased to be doing this with you today. Thank you so much for spending the time. I know you're busy.
We're all busy, Jack, but I'm thrilled you asked me, so I'm really excited to be here.
It's cool. I want to start off with introducing you a little bit to the UK market. There are probably lots of people follow you anyway because you are Instagram famous. If ever there was one, it's you. Tell us how it all started for you. So there's a huge story there.
So I've been doing hair for 28 years. When I hit the 25-year mark, I had my salon, but I was crazy busy, crazy booked, but feeling very trapped and uninspired. And I came into work one day and thought, how on earth am I going to do this for another 10 years? I'm so bored. There's nothing inspiring me. And one of the girls who used to work for me came in one day in this same time period and said, one of my clients' mothers wants to come to you because you're good with older hair.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So I remember thinking like, oh, is that where we're at? I was 43 years old and now I'm just an old lady hairdresser. So that was a big kind of middle finger, so to speak. And I kept hearing ombre was just becoming a big thing here. We were a little behind the times. And everybody was talking about balayage. And the girls that worked for me at the time were all watching YouTube videos on how to do it. And I just remember thinking, well, I'm the owner of the salon. If anybody should know how to do all this stuff, it's me. And I got trapped into this color cut world, root retouches, gray root retouches, every 4 to 5 weeks. Everybody was a 5N 20 volume. I was just so bored. So I really wanted to learn about balayage. And that same girl had filled her book in about 6 months. She had just moved back up here from down south using Instagram. So I remember thinking, well, if she can do that on Instagram, maybe I can get balayage clients. So I need to learn about balayage, whatever this crazy word is, if I'm saying it right, and then figure out what it is and start getting a younger clientele. And that's kind of how the whole thing started.
I think that's brilliant because I've talked with other guests about how if you have no passion for it, it becomes joyless. And then the work itself becomes joyless. And what's the point of it? And if we're going to be in a career like this, which is, youth dominated, and we want to be able to produce stuff that feels modern.
Absolutely.
And it's not an age thing. It's about being in an industry, a beauty industry. That's very cool. So where did you go to learn?
Well, there was really no education here. So I went to YouTube. And I looked up balayage every different way I could think of. And my first person that I found was Guy Tang.
Right.
I had never heard of Guy Tang at that point. I was very much in this little Paul Mitchell world where we just had Paul Mitchell education and we only went to Paul Mitchell classes and Paul Mitchell shows. So I really was missing out on the outside world of what other, not industries, but other companies were offering for education. So I was searching endlessly for balayage education, and there just really wasn't any. The stuff that Guy Tang was doing with surface painting just hit me to my core. Right. It just spoke to me, and that's what I knew I wanted to do. So I was trying to find every video I could and practice, but I didn't really understand the whys. So I was making just a ton of mistakes, but when I watched the girls that worked for me do it, they were just doing like painting tiny little pinstripes on everybody's hair.
Right.
And so they saw me painting and they were looking at me like, what on earth is she doing? Like, she's so stupid. But I knew if it was good enough for Guy Tang, then it was good enough for me. So, and I just was so passionate about not being terrible at it. So it became this like obsession. It just reignited the fire inside of me after 25 years of being an average hairdresser at best. I wanted to be really good, and I didn't want to just be good. I wanted to be great, and I wanted to understand everything I could about it. So it just started on this fuel to fill my spirit with stuff that I could create with my own two hands and a paintbrush.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Because I don't know whether the audience knows, but you're in Massachusetts, aren't you?
I am.
And it's not a big city that you're in.
No, we are in a very small town. The name of it is called Fitchburg, and it back in 2006, it was voted the #2 worst place to live in the country.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. So there you go.
So it's small. It's quite rural, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't say it's rural. It's rural where I live in southern New Hampshire, which isn't far away.
Right.
But Fitchburg and the adjacent town Leominster are both as bigger towns go around here. There's about 40 to 45,000 people per town, so it's not terribly small. Where I live, it's 4,000 people, so that one's pretty rural. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So there wasn't much education going on being offered to you, and you went out and sought it out yourself.
I did.
On YouTube, which is always hard, I think, because YouTube doesn't always give you the full story. It gives you little bits of information, and you figured it all out yourself.
I did. It was a lot of trial and error. Yeah. It was really trying to figure out. I would see application photos or quick videos without understanding the why, but I just thought the application looked beautiful, and so I would try that on my next client without understanding what it was going to create.
Right.
And then when somebody would have, a really strong hot root, I was like, uh-oh. Now I see what that does.
We're just going to tone that out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the funny thing is at the time, I didn't even know what a root shadow was. I mean, we just didn't.
Right.
We just didn't have the education here. We were really, really lacking. So I feel like back 3 years ago when this started, I feel like I just turned into a brand new hairdresser again. And I had to learn everything all over. Everything that I knew just went right out the window. So it was definitely humbling, to say the least.
You've done such an amazing 3 years. This is all it is. 3 years.
Yep, 3 years. It was 3 years in May, I think.
And the most fantastic, gorgeous images of hair and hair painting that you put out there with your 226,000 followers, 226,000 people.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It's somewhere around there.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. But the work always looks so beautiful. I always find myself drawn into your account, and I sort of look at the picture. I'm like, how did that? And then I zoom in, and I'm like, and I'm looking. You know what I mean? So I mean, I've been I discovered you through somebody else who'd said, "Oh, this woman does really great painting," and I'm like, "Camouflage and Balayage, what's that? How did that name come about? Because it's kind of fun."
Well, so oh my gosh. Well, when I got on Instagram, I just used my name.
Right.
And I turned my personal page into my hair page without really knowing anything about Instagram. So I had about 300 or so followers, I think, at the time. That was May of 2016. And I was trying to understand Instagram. I didn't know what a hashtag was. I didn't know what it was for. I couldn't spell anything. And I saw a post one day on branding.
Right.
And I kept seeing little bits and pieces on branding. There were names that were really catchy, Pretty Little Ombre,
I follow her.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie's amazing. She was one of the very first painters that I learned from outside of YouTube. So when I found her account, she just gave so freely. And when I saw how much I was learning from her, when I finally got to that level, I wanted to be able to do that for other people. So I share a lot of information for that reason. But anyway, getting back to branding. So I kept seeing all these posts on branding and how important it was. And my page was just starting to get discovered a little bit. I was getting featured on smaller pages and then a few bigger pages. And so by September, my page had hit like 1,200 followers, and I changed my name. So where the name comes from, I really wanted to build a balayage business. So everybody was just starting on the balayage bandwagon with their names. So I got in right before the craze of it happened. And my husband is a big hunter. Sorry for those people that don't like that. I don't hunt, but he does. And so all of my friends who have known me for years before I met him, because I got married very late in my late 30s. So I'm 46 now. We've been married for 8 years. And all of my friends before knew that, I liked, things like David Yurman and driving fancy cars and, My house always looked like a small little magazine. So now that I'm married to this hunter, every time somebody would go to Home Depot or Walmart and they would see camouflage, they would say, oh, I was going to get this thing because it had camouflage on it and I thought of you. So when I was trying to come up with my brand, I thought, well, what do people think about who really know me? What do they think about first? And that was just the first thing. It's been this running joke with my friends of, I saw this deer thing on it the other day and I thought of you. So I went from being what was sort of fancy to this little redneck.
But very clever branding, I think, really, because
it really worked. And, it was so funny. I remember my family was encouraging me to not change it, which I think is interesting looking back. But I knew in my gut I had to. I just knew it.
Right.
But they were like, Amy, you're getting features everywhere and people are noticing, like, it's working. Why would you change your name? And I thought, yeah, but nobody remembers my name. So
Right.
I just remember as soon as I changed my name, I'd asked my husband and what he thought of it, because it took me about 3 weeks to sit down and really come up with it. And then when I thought of it, I had read it to him and he said, say that again. So I read it to him again, Camouflage and Balayage. And he said, yeah, that's good. It rhymes. It's good. That's good. It's catchy.
It does rhyme and it is catchy, and it certainly does stand out in the market.
It does. So I changed my name in that September of that same year, 2016, at 1,200 followers maybe. And by the end of December, I hit 30K. My account exploded faster than my knowledge had. So I was getting, you should teach. And I thought, I don't even know what I'm doing. What do you mean I should teach? I'm still learning. So, it was interesting. Everything happened so much faster than I even knew was possible. And I'm so grateful, but there was so much stress that went along with it because I didn't feel good enough to be able to getting all these accolades. I was just really struggling, leaving many days crying because I screwed somebody up, but also getting 2 features on the same day. And I didn't know how to process all of that. So.
Yeah, I think that we, as an industry, we can be really hard on ourselves. And one of the things I always talk about with people is that the rules of color don't change because you're painting on the surface of the hair. It's like it just doesn't change. If it needs corrective work, it's not going to happen with balayage. It's going to be corrective work, then balayage. And
exactly.
So I think that one of the other interesting things about balayage is that because it's so new to so many people, and because it is more about a feeling and your own eye, that it's quite hard for people to learn it to begin with. But once they get going, they develop their own style.
They do. And I think the thing I try to encourage people, especially in my classes, in the beginning, I remember putting my very first video out of me painting. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. Everyone's going to know I don't know what I'm doing. This is it. It was terrifying. And the more I went along and the more accounts I followed and the more friends I got to make, and I saw everybody had their own style and it worked for them. And so when I finally really understood that in my soul, I was able to let go of the fear of not being good enough. And I had a girl, I'm actually going to teach a class with her in November. So she's exploded onto Instagram all of a sudden as well. She's out of Syracuse, New York. But she took my class when I was teaching in a little town called Poughkeepsie. And so she came over to me and said, oh, I teach balayage too. And I thought, really? Well, that's interesting. I said, can I see your page? I'd love to see your work. An educator taking my class was like, uh-oh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So she showed me her page and I saw her work and it was stunning. And I looked straight at her and I said, what are you doing here? You're a way better painter than me. And she said to me, I cannot figure out how you make your blends. And that moment was life-changing for me because that was the first time it hit me that it was okay that I had my own lane. I spent so much time trying to be Jamie, trying to be Mallory out of Florida, trying to be Micah out of North Carolina. There was so many balayage artists that I wanted my work to be like that. I didn't even realize that I was good enough on my own right and I had paved my own way. And that was a huge, huge moment for me to let go of that fear of you're not good enough.
Yes, the thing about balayage, and it's something I've said again, is it's as unique as your fingerprint.
Exactly.
And people come to you for your taste level, and if they go with, and I've seen you talk about this, if they go to someone else with your image, that person's not going to be able to create it. They're going to create their version of it.
Right.
I just love the fact that it's so individual.
I do too. I feel it's frustrating for clients because I don't think clients really get it. I do preach a lot on my page about how unique it is and that, pictures are more for inspiration, not duplication. It's really, really hard for clients to find somebody to give them the look that they want because now there's just so many different approaches. And often I get clients who are very frustrated because their girl keeps using foils and they just want balayage.
Right.
And I'm trying to get them to understand that just because someone has their own unique approach doesn't make it wrong. If the work is there and it's good, then you'll get the look that you're looking for, but it's not going to be identical to any picture you give them, ever.
It's not.
Yeah.
We had a situation and a client had seen someone else and had seen me first and then saw someone else and it was different. And I was like, well, I was only away for a day. And it was like, but what
How
do you
dare
think?
you?
But, yeah, how dare you? And it was the conversation was like, but it's not the same. And I'm like, but it's not the same person, and it's somebody else, and it's a feeling and what it evokes. And I do think it is hard for people to understand because they think that we are all just the same, and they don't necessarily see the artistry of what we do.
No, they don't. And most of the time we're interpreting what we hear, what they want, and then we're putting our own artistry on it. And everyone's going to interpret that same sentence differently and see their own vision. So again, I feel terrible for clients these days because I feel like they just see Pinterest images. That's the hair I've always wanted. And it's just so impossible for them to get that it's inspiration. And your hair will not look like that because it's jet black. Yes. And she was blonde to start with. Yes. And I feel like the frustration level for clients to understand that it's art. It's not a photocopy. It's art.
Yes. And it's an individual doing it.
Yes, yes.
So I want to take you back a little bit because I want to take you back to your story. So it blew up. The whole thing blew up for you. You hit 30K, which is, a massive number, but nothing like where you are now. I mean, where you are now is even bigger. But what happened with the salon? The team didn't move with you, did they? In the sense of emotionally, they didn't move with you.
No, that same group left that following year in June. One of the girls that had started originally with me had decided it was time to open her own salon, and everybody left with her.
Right.
And it was emotionally crippling and freeing all at the same time. It's taken me a long time to process it. But I really had no vision for my own salon. I just outgrew booth renting. Where I live, it's all booth renting.
Right. And for the UK audience, booth renting, if you don't know, is basically where you can go in and either rent a chair or you can do the whole kind of rent a room, can't you?
Right. Yeah. So we don't have suites out here.
Right.
We just have chair rentals. That's it.
So it's a bunch of people working together who don't necessarily have the same feeling or voice or message.
Yeah. They're all independent contractors within the salon. So it can get a little tricky. But they all started off as my employees. And then eventually, because I wasn't a good leader is what I've really come to figure out. And I didn't have a clear-cut vision of the salon. I grew up in the industry as a booth renter.
Right.
So to now own a salon, I don't know how to lead a team. I don't know how to create a payroll. I don't know how to create a culture. So I was just failing miserably. It's no wonder they got frustrated. But I really let them handicap me at the same time because I let them run everything and then would complain about it because they weren't doing what I wanted, even though I didn't even really know what I wanted. So in essence, the only person that I can really point the finger at is me for my lack of leadership. But, it was a really big learning curve. So when they all left, my account was really growing at that point, and I feel like a few of them were a little bit jealous and didn't like it. And I really just wanted them to be proud of me so they would start respecting me. And none of it ever happened. So it was humbling.
I think that those kind of experiences are really humbling. But also, I think it's such a magnificent story that you'd gone along with all of this and then changed direction. People don't like change anyway, do they? So they've gone off in another new direction. And here you are just blowing up in Instagram. And you set sail on your own, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a touch of like OCD. So when I'm on a mission, I am on a mission, and you really can't stop me. So I was very determined to to keep going. I just really, it meant everything for me. I could feel it in my soul that I needed to keep doing this. I didn't care what they thought. They were really in my way. They weren't supporting me. So all the really great stuff started happening about 5 weeks after they left. And I was thrilled because they couldn't take it from me.
Right. Nobody can take it from you.
Well, they had a way of making me feel bad when something really great would happen. You know, BTC would contact me and they wanted to do an article. And so I would come in and I'd be so excited to tell them because, again, I just wanted them to be proud of me. I wanted them to see, look what I was doing. I'm your boss, but I'm not a loser anymore. You see what I'm doing? Can you see it? And one of the girls who I thought liked me a little said, oh, yeah, I heard about that. That's cool. You know, I know how important that is to you.
Oh, I love the way people, that double-edged sword, sort of smile and stick a knife in the side.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, you too, huh? Okay. So I just started keeping things to myself because there was just no support from anybody. And it was really hard. As soon as I would leave, I'd call my parents and tell them all the great things that, you know, had happened that day. And but I couldn't share it with anybody but my clients who were really excited and just my family. So it was really challenging.
So I think that is actually quite hysterical considering the amount of support and love and insight you give out freely on Instagram that people could be like that. But jealousy rears its head in many, many ways. Now, Behind the Chair writes an article about you. Congratulations on your latest 2 one-shot nominations, by the way. Oh, cool and warm.
You know, I'll tell you this year, when I see the level of work that was submitted, I thought I didn't have a prayer. I mean, everybody has leveled up. It was game on this year. And I remember saying to one of my girls, if I get it this year, that's saying something, because I didn't even know how they would choose. The work submitted this year was like nothing I've ever seen for this competition. I was really, really honored when they chose me. I couldn't believe it, I'll be honest. If I had looked at all that work, I'm not sure I would have chose me. So I was very, very honored.
Nice. Yeah. Brilliant. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So you're going to the show? I
am. So I wasn't sure if I was going to. My new salon is going to be opening that week, and I thought it would just be too headachy. But Schwarzkopf was so generous and messaged me to congratulate me and wanted me to be there. So they're flying me to there, which I thought was amazing. So they've just been so supportive.
Brilliant. That's great news. Fingers crossed for you. I've got quite a few fingers crossed for people in this one. So definitely fingers crossed for you too. Let's go back to Insta. So love it or hate it. And I mean, I love it, but sometimes I struggle with it. As I suppose many people do. How you have a look? How did you know that straight away that you had a look with your gram, or did it just evolve? How did you go about that?
With my pictures or my grammar?
Your pictures, first of all.
No, that sort of evolved. It was funny because I saw work that I thought was beautiful, and I was basically just trying to copy it.
Right.
And I was failing. So. And all of a sudden I started realizing that, well, it's good enough on its own. Why am I trying to pretend I'm somebody else? So at that point, when I started really owning my talent and my look, then I was okay with it. But when people would say initially, like, I knew this was your picture before I even saw your name. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, is that terrible? Like, that just means that I'm just a one-trick pony. And they were like, no, that's a good thing. It means you're recognizable. And I was like, oh, because I was so panicked. Like, oh no, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, I just second-guessed myself constantly when this was all so new. You know, I'm not big into social media. I'm not on Facebook. I got off Facebook 3 years ago. I don't have a personal account on Instagram. So I've only turned my personal page into this. So it's my only outlet.
Right.
And so I don't understand a lot of it. I've learned to understand Instagram really, really well because it is my only source. But yeah, in the beginning, you just question everything you're doing. And it makes you feel like, you know, how come my work doesn't look like this? Or how come my work doesn't look like that? So artists that I thought were amazing, when they started following my page, I would be in puddles like, oh my God, they're following me. Can you believe it? And I'd be fangirling, as you know.
Yes. The thing is, though, everyone says that you've got to, and I really struggle with it, is to get that feel so that when somebody immediately looks at your image, not your page, and they're like, oh, I know who that is. And I think you've nailed that, absolutely nailed it.
Well, thank you. I noticed that when I try to veer from it, it doesn't get received well. So now I almost wonder if I pigeonholed myself. But, I love my work, so I'm very proud of what I've done. So I guess if it's not broken, don't fix it yet.
Well, I think you can interject, can't you, into it a little
Yeah.
bit, something different and everything. So taking that picture, how long does that take you to get the right shot?
Well, I do everything outside.
Yes.
So some days it's a big struggle. Our lighting here is very inconsistent. I actually block 3 spaces in front of my salon with chairs in the parking lot every day so people can't park there. So I run a really good business. We don't answer the phone, and you're not allowed to park here. Go away. So it's very inviting. So I bring all of my clients outside. I have 2 spots that I really like. One is a green background, and one is just the reflection of the glass.
Right.
And I usually try to get them in both locations because the hair looks very different. And I remember when I first started building my page, I would drag my clients around everywhere. We had a brick wall out back. And so, because it would look like a different head in every single photo. And
Yes.
it gave me more content to post when I didn't really have any, when I have any clients.
That is a
So-
great tip. Well
Yeah,
done.
I mean, I only had a couple of my nieces and a few clients who I asked to be models. So when my page started building, people say to me, "Oh my God, you have your clients are so beautiful. You have so many." And I was like, "No, I have 6." Like, I literally have 6. But I would beg my nieces to come in regularly, even if they didn't need anything, and I would throw a pastel over the top of it just so I could have something else to post. So I
Right.
kind of started this little pastels over balayage trend that was just more so I could have more content for my page. So, because I didn't know, I can't keep painting or her hair's going to fall off.
That's so clever. That really is
Yeah.
clever. That's brilliant.
Well, it was really important to me to build the balayage clientele. And it's so funny now because looking back, that's the least of what I've done. And creating this whole page of clients who fly to me now. I mean, I was just begging people to let me do their hair, and now I have clients. Most of my clients drive 3 and 4 hours, or they get on an airplane to fly to me. It baffles me.
No, I think it's fantastic. It speaks to your great work, but it also speaks to your brilliantness on Instagram, the way in which you've marketed yourself, and that's what it speaks to. It speaks to talent, and you just have to, accept that.
Some days it's hard.
So the other thing that you're a huge advocate of is of the industry and of supporting hairdressers in that. And there's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about. First of all, deposits. There's a huge thing going on in the UK. I like to take a deposit for first-time clients. But there's this huge thing going on about should we, shouldn't we, where's our worth, what's our value, which is about self-esteem, I imagine. Where do you sit with it all?
I'm a big advocate for deposits. I over here, boy, unless you're working on the famous, we don't get a lot of respect, and it cuts me to my core. It's something I'm very passionate about, and without being rude on Instagram, when I see it, I try to stand up for it as respectfully and powerfully as my words will allow me to, without disparaging our industry at all. But we are the only industry that is not allowed to climb the ladder. We always have to stay affordable. We're just hairdressers. And let me tell you, Jack, that it just hits me so hard. After 28 years, I'm not allowed to have value because I'm just a stupid hairdresser. So I'm a big believer in deposits. I believe it sets the precedent for a mutual respectful relationship that we're about to grow together. So I encourage deposits a lot. I take them for every single new client. I have a very strict set of rules that I send them along with the deposit. And if they break the rules, they're done.
It's fascinating. So what about new clients? Yes. But what about standing clients already? Do you take a deposit from them?
I don't. I'm actually going to start shifting into that, though, once I get into the new place. I've just had a few people recently who've canceled some large appointments with me.
Right.
That didn't really leave me enough time to fill. And I just think I do have enough people that ask me, oh, do you want a deposit for next time? And I stupidly say no. Why would I say no to that? But I have been, and I think that's something that I'm going to start changing. So I just think hands down, you get a lot more respect from people who are looking to commit to the relationship that we are trying to build with each other. You know, I'm not here for the fun of it. This is my job. I don't do it because it's fun. I do it because I love it, but I still have to pay my mortgage.
Yes.
And I think there's a common misconception that the I'm sorry pays my mortgage. Sorry. I'm going to try writing that out to my mortgage company and let's see if they'll accept it as some sort of payment, because people, you know, well, it's not fair. I didn't get my hair done. Why should I have to pay you? Well, please tell me then, if your boss says to you, you know, Karen, I know you showed up today for 8 hours, but I'm only going to pay you for 6 of them because my kids were sick. Sorry. How's that taste?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when people ask for discounts and things, and I'm like, well, I don't get a discount on the mortgage. I don't get a discount at the gym. I don't get any discounts in life, you know, unless I clip a coupon or something, which isn't going to happen. So it's like, no. I think it's industry-wide. It seems to be a much stronger conversation, and there's much more force behind us all pushing for something that, you know, a nursery would get. You know, if you stayed 5 minutes late or half an hour, you were half an hour late, you'd have to pay extra.
Yeah.
And,
I think social media is helping give a voice to people that are afraid.
Yes.
The more people, especially when people follow you, it's because they identify with you. There's something about your account that they really, either it's your work or they respect your rhetoric. But the more of us that keep speaking out about industry standards and respect,
yes,
I feel like we're starting to see that first shift in the industry. And it's hard over here because salon suites represent, I believe it was 53% of the industry now in the United States is salon suites and independent contractors. So it's hard to set up your own rules and then stand behind them. It's easy when the salon does it for you, but when you are now the salon, how do you enforce all your guidelines and not be a pushover?
Well, the thing is, if you don't, you end up with empty spaces and people cancelling on you and struggling at the end of the month, because it can add up really quickly.
Really quickly, yes. Yeah. And so you're seeing a lot of girls who just had enough. A lot of guys too. I don't mean to say just girls, but a lot of stylists in general are they've had enough with the no-shows. I mean, summer here is brutal for people canceling the last minute and throwing the I'm sorry, I wanted to stay at the beach one more day. And I just want to reach through my phone and strangle them. I go, yeah, I'm glad you're staying at the beach. I hope that works out for you, but I'm probably not going to book you again, I'll be honest.
So leading on, let's talk about consultations. It's a hot topic.
Yes.
I have a strict kind of thing that I want from clients. I want them to do a bit of homework, to bring in some images, and then they have to come in and have a consult with me, and I go through this whole list of things. How do you approach consultations? It's slightly different.
I would say it's very different. I am stuck in the direct message world on Instagram. So because my clients drive from so far or fly, I am stuck doing things online.
Right.
Which can get really tricky. As we know, capturing our work and putting an image up that really showcases it and its trueness and sincerity is challenging. So when clients are sending you photos, a lot of times what shows up